welcome to this edition of A Conversation With. I'm Jim Marshall of the New Bedford Cable Network, and it is that time of year again. We are joined by the Reverend Dave Lima, the Executive Minister of the Interchurch Council of Greater New Bedford, for our holiday chat that we've had most years, and it's good to see you.
It's good to see you, and it's good to be seen.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me.
Because the alternative is...
It is the alternative.
The alternative is not something that's enviable, I guess. What a year it's been, huh? It's been crazy, and now it's Christmas time, and it's a short Christmas
Very
time.
short season. My wife is not happy about that.
And you can see it actually with everything. I mean, it seems to be a sprint this year more than anything else.
It is, and a lot of people are trying to even get their bearings, period. You know, you always got the gift stuff, and Lord knows the stores started putting out Christmas before Halloween.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And it seems like every season is just a blur now. And maybe it's because I'm on the back side of, this age that I am at. And but it seems like traditions have changed. Everything seems to have changed. And it's all fast and moving. And, I sometimes miss some of that old slow down and just, the holiday strolls. We do a holiday stroll. The city does one on a Saturday. Just had it, if I'm not mistaken.
This past weekend, yeah.
We were out of town, but I remember when it was every night. You'd walk down Acushnet Avenue with all those stores that were going on, or if you came downtown before, urban renewal, and every store had Christmas music playing on a speaker outside their front door and everything else. And you had things going on outside, inside. It was just a lot of good things.
Well, it's interesting, too, because people don't go shopping anymore.
No.
We had Mike O'Sullivan on from the Chamber, and, people are ordering online.
Oh, yeah.
The shopping is not the same as it used to be.
Instant gratification. You need something, you're talking, and boom. Before you're done talking the conversation, you've already ordered for it to be delivered.
And it's I remember as a kid going with my dad on Christmas Eve, and he would go out, not shopping, he wouldn't buy anything.
Right.
But he, on Christmas Eve, as a little kid, he'd take us out.
Yeah.
Now, I think there were other things going on, but, getting us out of the house, but that was his way, and it was fun, actually, to go out there and do that.
Oh, yeah.
See lights, you go shopping. It's interesting. What do you look at as, and I always ask you this every year, but what do you think is the message this year? It's been a tough year. It's been a transitional year, let's put it that way. There's a lot of things going on for everybody in all walks of life. But what are you preaching right now to folks?
Good question, because I'm even trying to come up with the theme for our New Year's message. That we do an interfaith services. You guys are always wonderful to come down and tape it. And we usually have different members, from different clergy, different community leaders, but sometimes just regular boots on the ground type folks that are doing great work in the community that not everybody sees. And we've celebrated a lot of things. We've also come together for a lot of things. Last year it was around what was happening in the Middle East, and we had both Jewish and Muslim community with us, and trying to just help people understand that no matter what's going on somewhere else, we still are a community that work together and should be able to communicate together so that we don't have a great divide that just continues. But like you're saying, it seemed like as much that is going good, but there's also so much that is not. And I'm, in discussing with the folks that I'm with, we're looking for a title, a message that's somewhere around, who's my brother? Who is it? Who's my family? And my family are those that are around us, and who are we helping? Because we should be able to help people that need it, and there's a lot of need right now.
Well, the interesting thing too is you hear, all through the elections and what have you, and people are struggling financially, and there are people that are, we had the United Way on, and the need for food assistance and everything is up. Yet you also see, on the other hand, you see that you've got consumer spending is through the roof right now.
Right.
And it doesn't add up to me when I hear that.
Right. It's interesting because the beginning of every December, right after Thanksgiving, usually I work into my message in my church service, whether it's in the announcements or whatever, is I talk about debt. And I talk about how, the season, as we know it, is built towards taking your money. It's wrapped up in a bow in terms of get the loved one this, because this is what they need, this is what they want. And let's face it, we've become a society that, like I said earlier, instant gratification.
Yeah.
What I want, I got to have, and everything else. And there's so much being advertised, so much that's out there. But I try to tell the folks in the church, don't go get into debt over a holiday.
Yeah.
The need is year long. The joy is year long. But when all of a sudden I hear people that, all of a sudden have these credit card bills that they're paying for 2, 3, 4 months and buying gifts and other things for the holidays, I said, you kind of missed the whole idea and the point about, what Jesus came to do. And, yes, the wise men brought gifts, but they brought gifts to a king. Should I give you something? Sure, I should share with what I have. But sometimes what we need to recognize is giving somebody else something else that they don't need or that they already have is great, and we smile when we see people opening gifts. But you know what? I just came from a meeting where we're talking about, with the cold weather, we have 66 extra people that have had to been put up in shelter that we don't have that everyday shelter for because of this cold weather we've been having.
And it's going to get this weekend too, as we're recording the show. You're going to get temperatures in the coming weekend they're not going to be above 24 degrees.
Exactly, which means it'll be open, and that we expect that those numbers are going to rise.
Is it hard from where you stand every weekend when you talk about, and we talk about the old times, and I don't like to be like, oh, back in my day or whatever like that. But, my brother said something to me, it's interesting. He's 15 years younger than me, 14 and a half, to be honest. But, and he's like, I remember there was always presents. We never got, we didn't get electronic stuff. My parents would always get us one gift that we really wanted, and then the rest was just stuff.
Yeah.
There was always stuff under the tree, but, my parents didn't go into hock. They didn't have the money anyway.
Right.
Is it hard from where you stand that people get that message? I mean, there is the story of Christmas, the whole point of it anyway.
Yeah.
Which isn't.
Some people get it, and some people.
Is it generational?
I think it is to an extent. I also think at times it's because for some people that's what helps them, make them feel good, maybe transcend them out of what they're going through at the moment. But I think the thing that at least I try to project, I know a lot of the ministers that are out there try to do, a lot of the nonprofit leaders are trying to do is as much as, getting somebody their 14th coat, giving somebody who needs one is going to be that. And the thing is I've seen, it's happened in my family, it's happened to others, where you try to teach our folks, whether it's the church or the people that I work with in the community, or whether it's our youth, that giving something to somebody who has a need blesses them more than anything you could ever say. I've pointed out to my own grandkids, what about all those toys that you guys have over there that you're not using? And, we're bored with that and everything else. They'll tell you that flat out. And, I'll say, I'm willing to bet that if you cleaned it up and you gave it to a couple of places that I know, they'll be able to give it to somebody who will really appreciate it.
Yeah.
You know, and all of a sudden, sometimes the bulb clicks, and it's like, yeah. And of course, I had one that said, yeah, if I get rid of what I got, then you'll think I'm really good, and you'll get me another one. I said, well, you're thinking, kid. You're doing good.
But the other thing, too, is how much are we to blame for what we do, too? Because, there's always that old adage that you want to do better for your kids than you did for yourself. And I think all parents, grandparents think the same thing, but has that been to a detriment to younger folks?
I think it is. I think it also is just plain old marketing has gotten so much better. What we see on TV, heck, it gets put right into TV shows now, where things are highlighted. It's the must-have of the season. Credit is a whole lot easier to get, so people fall for all of that. I think we used to be creative at times. I can remember making things to give to people. I can remember when my wife would, when we first got married, I'm not going to tell you we were poor and dirt poor, and but we didn't have a lot. And she'd make cookies and banana breads and whatnot, and we'd wrap them up, and we'd get the tins, and we gave those as gifts, and the thing is we used to enjoy receiving that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Because somebody did something for us. But then we started escalating, and then it's like I've got to do greater. I agree with you. I always wanted to do more than what my parents could do, and I have more capability. But sometimes you recognize that we're not helping each other when we do that.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm wondering. Yeah.
Yeah, and so sometimes I'm trying to teach the lesson of to give is greater than to receive.
Has that message changed since you've been a minister? Changed over, because as you said, times have changed.
Yeah.
Is that? It just seems that again you've seen the change in society, and now it's. I don't know if you have to change your message, or how do you get to them?
I think, how do you get to them? What I've always found that no matter how much you say, it only goes so far.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, they're the people that will always listen to, whether it's a community leader, a minister, a priest, a rabbi, and they'll take their words for the most part, and they'll believe those words for the most part, but then don't necessarily have the opportunity to follow through with them. What I always find is that when you find an opportunity to bring people to assist at a food shelter, at a cold weather shelter, or assist with handing out food or giving out clothing or something like that, then they see folks. Because the one thing that we have lately, and it's, for me, it's gotten so much worse as we've gotten older, you and I, and I'm older than you are, is that we've become such a polarized society.
Yeah.
We are always looking to blame and shame those that we think aren't measuring up. But sometimes when you get to know their stories, you realize their stories are our stories.
Yeah. Well, there's more in common. Most people have more in common than they don't.
But we don't stop to actually find out.
Yeah.
We listen to somebody spout what their image is of America or their image is of New Bedford, and we take it for granted that maybe they know what they're saying, and but they don't get involved. And I always tell everybody, if you don't like something, get involved and try it for a day or 2 or 3. Volunteer. Go and see what's going on. When you get to talk to some people, you realize, yeah, there's some that know how to game the system. But most are just trying to survive. Most are just trying to live. And that, to me, is the greater story that can come out of the Christmas story. What did they have? What did Jesus have? What did his parents have? Being born in a manger, where some animal has been slopping up its food, that's poverty.
Yeah. We were talking with the Reverend Dave Lima, the executive minister of the Interchurch Council of Greater New Bedford. He's here for his pretty much annual visit. I'm curious, this is, there were 2 days a year for churches that are, considered Super Bowls, if you will.
Yep.
You're going to have more people in church, I'm hope.
C&E Christians.
And in Easter, the other.
Right.
Again, you're trying to get people to go to church every week too.
Right.
So what is your approach to that?
Again, relationship, fellowship, open doors, not criticizing people where they are, finding out who they are and what's going on in their life. For some, they've been hurt by the church, and we need to acknowledge that. For some, they've never been exposed to what church family can be. And again, I'm obviously a born-again Christian, come from a conservative side of Christianity. But I'd say that, talking to all my different friends that from different faiths, whether they're Muslim or Jewish or Catholic or anything else in between, we all experience the same thing. We all have strains. We all have pressures. We don't always think that going to a building with other people is necessarily going to be something that's going to uplift me. And it's our job to find that. How do we do it? It's not about a show. It's not putting on just doing something to get people excited. It's, as well as I do, there's the things that I say to you that helps you, that maybe click, but the things I do with you, now you feel it more. We got to become family. Whether it's in our own churches or synagogues, or whether it's in our homes for sure, whether it's in our community. It's getting to know one another. And I'm not always going to agree with everybody, and they're not always going to agree with me. But everybody's opinion, it does have value. And sometimes listening to somebody else's perspective, doggone it, helps us understand things differently too.
It certainly gives you an education as well.
Without a doubt.
And that's hugely important. As you tie this in too, you mentioned briefly the New Year's Eve service that goes on every year that the council puts on. But it's sort of, Christmas isn't just Christmas. It's a season.
Of course.
And I don't think people realize that either.
No. And let's face it, over the years, especially with not wanting to offend people, not wanting to, and which of course offends some people. Well, don't call it Christmas. It's the holiday season, not the Christmas season. Well, for some of us that believe in Christ, we get offended when you don't let me say Christ. On the other hand, not everybody believes like I do, and we shouldn't be isolating people either. But recognize them where they are. The holiday season, however you want to put it, for me, always comes back to one thing. For a Christian, it does come back to the birth of our Savior. If he hadn't been born, he would not have lived, he would not have taught, he would not have shared, and he wouldn't have died and been resurrected. All things that the Christian understands is necessary for life and for eternity. But it also is about, again, I go back to the same thing, caring about one another, sharing with one another, supporting one another. That's the most important thing. And with the holidays, sometimes we, as busy as we get, and let's face it, we all get busier during the holidays, but we get busier so that we do find those moments where we slow down and just be with other people. In a more festive type atmosphere that we can actually share and care.
I remember when I worked at the radio station for years, and I worked with Stan Lipp.
Right.
Active Jewish member of the congregation.
Great man.
Bruce Calver, on Sundays, he was active Jewish. And you know what? People would call them, they didn't know their their denomination, Merry Christmas.
Yep.
And both of them would say Merry Christmas back. They didn't look at it as an affront that they didn't know that they were Jewish. They looked at it as they're wishing me well. And Stan did his Quarters for Christmas for years to raise money for kids, for needy kids.
Of course.
And I look at that, I always thought of that as an example of it. Faith is important, but it's the spirit of the holiday that matters more than labels, if you will.
Well, it does, and let's face it, that's why you find people come together to do Thanksgiving dinners, in the community, to come to Thanksgiving baskets, holiday baskets, things like that, because people they're more aware of the holiday spirit and the giving spirit and sharing with somebody who doesn't have as much as we do.
And there's different ways too. The interesting thing, like I was thinking of Thanksgiving, you talked about the Thanksgiving dinners that they had, and I do. There's a fun run, if you will, in Fairhaven every year, the Turkey Trot,
right.
And all the proceeds go to the they'll go to the food bank,
right.
And there's 800 people participating,
yeah.
And they're paying. They're bringing food, they're doing the run, and I'm sitting there. That's nice. There's no trophies. There's no awards at the end of this thing. Yet 800 people show up on Thanksgiving morning this past year.
Yep.
To say, hey, this is their way of helping, if you will.
And it is. And again, awareness is brought up, community is brought together. Again, that's how we build a lot of this and how we build awareness. The sad thing that comes out of this is that sometimes it's only around the holidays that we think of that way. I'll never forget Eileen McNamee, who of course ran Catholic Social Services for so many years. I remember for quite a few years, before I even got involved in community, there was a few churches up in the North End that we used to come together and make a Thanksgiving dinner, and we would serve a few hundred people at the building. We used to rent out the Poria Post up in the North End, and we would deliver another 1,200 dinners to seniors and shut-ins. And I was talking about that with Eileen, and she says, that's wonderful. She says, what are you doing for them the other 364 days of the year when they're hungry?
Yeah. Well, it's true, and it's funny because, again, we've had folks on from the United Way talking about, and, I fall victim of that too, where you're trying to raise awareness for the holidays or whatever, but the toughest part for food banks and for kids is when school ends, the time between school ending and school returning, those 2 months, they are desperate for food.
Oh, yeah.
Kids are.
Oh, yeah.
Which is why the city does a nice thing with their summer in the park.
Yes.
Breakfast and lunch
Yep.
For kids.
Because, again, in a community like ours, we have a lot of folks that do not have, the kids eat better because they go to school. And you would say, at this day and age, how can that be? Well, take a look at the rents, take a look at the food costs, all of these things that we've been struggling with the last few years. And it's not getting easier, it's getting a little bit tougher.
And again, the message that I still get floored about is people are spending more. And I just don't, again, is it all credit? I don't know, but.
Some of it is, obviously.
Yeah, I know some of it is.
Credit debt is higher than it's ever been.
The other thing you were talking about too, when you were talking about, as a younger with shopping and whatever. I remember my parents, they didn't have the credit card.
Right.
But they would do layaway.
Right.
They would do the green stamps. But they would plan for that all year long.
How about this one? You remember Christmas Club at the banks?
At the banks, yeah.
You used to give them, $5 or $10 a week so that at the end of the year you'd have the cash.
Yeah.
And that's what you'd spend.
Yeah.
So that's the key.
But those are the little things I remember my parents doing so that we would have, and there were 5 of us as kids, so I can't imagine what Christmas cost them. And again, they, neither one of my parents were, they were just working people.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to ask too, I go back to this, I think we talk about this every year. When you talk about the Christmas message, the one thing that the one special I have to watch, and I know your wife and I are in the same boat with this, is the Charlie Brown Christmas.
Yes.
That one point when Linus says, I can tell you the meaning of Christmas,
right.
And it's all of 1 minute.
Yeah.
But if you don't get a lump in your throat when you hear him do that every year, and I always say Christmas doesn't start until I see it. Unfortunately now, it's not even available.
Yeah.
It's on.
You can buy it on DVD, things like that, which I assure you, in my house especially, there's more Charlie Brown and Snoopy and other things and Christmas decorations and all this other stuff. We even have a clock that plays the Christmas music from Charlie Brown's special.
Oh, we've got the CD,
that
or
plays,
DVD, I should say.
So it again, I think I think we do get carried away with the season and not the reason. And I didn't mean to do that because there's more people that throw that at people, that Jesus is the reason for the season. But again, that is what Christmas is.
Yeah.
You know, that's why why it came together. And,
The amazing thing too, that just on the sidebar to that was Charles Schultz was criticized by putting that in there
Oh yeah.
because they didn't think that America would handle that. They thought it'd be a one and done thing,
Right.
and the ratings and the reaction was through the roof for that, and that's how it became an annual staple.
Yeah. No,
He did that purposely to put in there.
He did. He did. In fact, he would many different things that he did over the course of his career, where he would show some faith in his cartoons, and some principles, and he was at times criticized for it. And he wasn't the most devout man,
No.
you know, but he at least knew that there was a basic that was true.
There's
And-
always you're right. There is a base. There's a foundation that most people have.
Right. And some people want all or nothing. And others, you know, like I said, going back to what I was saying earlier, there have been some that have been hurt by the church and by the manners of others and what they feel. Our biggest thing should just be, how do I build my relationship with you, your friendship, over the course of years? That's where people will find more of the hand and spirit of Christ than if we just keep lecturing, you know, and we do too much lecturing in this country.
Not enough listening.
Not enough listening.
You know, it's easy to talk. It's harder to listen.
Yes.
Got 2 minutes left. I want to give you a chance just for a final thought and a little plug for the New Year's Eve event as well.
Well, the New Year's Eve event will be New Year's Eve, obviously, the 31st.
So that's the 31st.
31st, yes. It will be 5 o'clock at the Siemens Bethel. I think this is our 20th year doing it consecutively, aside of when we missed that 1 year during COVID. I think it's important for us to come out. You know, it's when you get all the other festivities happening in New Bedford. A lot more things are happening downtown, but this is a great way to start it grounded at 5 o'clock at the Siemens Bethel. It will stay under an hour. It will be community people as well as some of the faith leaders. And it's a time for us to come and offer up some prayer and some vision, as well as some possible inspiration and some direction. You know, what should we do moving forward? What are some of the needs, but how do we overcome the needs? Because I think that there's a place of redemption that we all can find, and there's so many things we can do together, but it's better together than doing it apart.
And the Christmas season, remember too, is not just the one day or whatever. It's
Every day. The Spirit of Christ, the Spirit of Christmas should be with us every day. It should be, what can I do for you? What can I give you? What can I bless you with? And if everybody had that, you're doing the same thing back to me.
right.
How much more could we do?
Well, I appreciate you coming in as always.
I
It was a
appreciate you having
fast
us.
half hour.
Always is.
It always is. Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Merry Christmas
Happy
to you
New Year
too,
as
Jim.
well.
Take care.
That's going to do it for this edition of A Conversation With. I'm Jim Marshall of the New Bedford Cable Network. Thanks for watching. Happy holidays. We'll see you soon.